Hello everyone and welcome back to the Cyclocross Social podcast. Today we're going to take a look ahead at the European Cyclocross Championships taking place in Middlekerke, Belgium on the beach this weekend. And with me here to do that and provide his analysis, his preview, his predictions is Issam.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Some people might be wondering, why is this guy wearing a suit? That is of course because I'm honored to have Issam in my presence, and his type of analysis requires me to be at my utmost best and to compensate for my lack of good predictions. But additionally, my master graduation ceremony was this morning. For some reason, that was scheduled at 10:30, so that gave me plenty of time to do the celebrations afterward and record this podcast in the evening. So, as a little touch, that's where the outfit is coming from. But that's enough about us. We should get into the action because it's promising to be a really nice weekend of racing. The conditions are looking to be sunny, it's looking to be dry, and above all, most races have a number of contenders. We will take a look ahead at the elite races and the U23 races. The junior races we will leave, there's not a broadcast of that, not a broadcast of the U23 either, but for the junior I will refer to our Substack where anyone can read it. You can subscribe for free there. The previews are always ahead of the paywall sections, but in case you do want to provide a bit of financial support to our efforts in the podcasting, in the newsletter, you can subscribe there. So let's get into the action. Issam, Middlekerke, men elite category. The racing there is on the beach. It's on a military domain. There have been some stories already in Belgium about the security of the event. They are a bit worried that the Russians will try and infiltrate some spectators, some people in the back of vans, in the back of camper vans that are proclaiming to be athletes. So that's one story that's at the headlines of the Belgian newspapers already, especially in the wake of several drone incidents around Brussels airport, forcing some airport closures already. So that's one point of concern. And the second point of concern for the Belgians is that they are worried that they are not going to win a title in the men elite category because they are getting a bit scared of Joris Nieuwenhuis. The course is fast, it has a bit of sand, it has a few hills. The sand element of the course might be a little bit overrated in some previews. There's a lot of running, there's some dunes in there, which makes the follow-up sand sections running as well, but it will undoubtedly play a role. For you, take it away first with Issam's Mud Mountain, and then after that we will discuss how your power rankings compare to the pecking order that we expect this weekend in Middlekerke. Let's start. The leader,
Issam's Mud Mountain.
That's right, Issam. We had two races this weekend, X2O Trophy on the Koppenberg and Lokeren. What changes have there been to your Mud Mountain, your power rankings?
Yes, well, I have to say we go to tier 5, the lowest tier, and I have to say there have been some changes. There have been some controversial changes, actually, but we'll go through them all. First, we go to tier 5. Mason and Kuhn stay there. Same goes for Jente Michels and Toon van der Bos. Lars van der Haar is actually demoted from tier 4 to tier 5. It was, I wouldn't say a tough decision, because I think that the performances of Van der Haar weren't per se bad, but I had to make a decision, and with the men's category, it's just so tough to bring that into order. I try my best, I swear I do, but it's just at times it's a bit difficult. And for Van der Haar, at this time he was he was the one that I saw as the one that should be demoted. But there are some other contenders. Don't worry about that in tier 4. Tier 4 we have Toon Aerts, who actually is now demoted from tier 3. Then we got Laurens Zweek, Orts, and Viseuren. With Aerts, I have to say that, his performances haven't been that bad, but it's just he misses just that little bit to get more often into the top 5s and the top 3s, and it's just he misses that spark. It's just not really there. Toon Aerts is just lacking that a little bit, and for that reason I was just in need for some room up there in tier 3, and that's why Toon Aerts was the guy that lost out. And Laurens Zweek is a rider in which I lost a lot of confidence in. I thought that he would actually be the rider that could pick his races, but at the moment, even the races that he picks, he's not able to fulfill with good results. So I don't know what is going on. Ort's also a bit disappointing at this point, so he has to turn it around, I have to say. Then we go to tier 3. Ronhaar, Verstringen, and Van de Putte are your names. Ronhaar, has been on a roll in terms of form. He has bounced back, I guess, from that somewhat horrible start of the season. He has found his mojo, found his way, and I think he has shown himself at the front with good legs, so I think that he definitely deserves to stay there. Verstringen and Van de Putte are there as well. With Verstringen, I think he's on the up, and I have to say that his form is definitely very interesting and noticeable, because he has been getting some good results, and he has been up there. So I think with Verstringen, that is definitely one to watch. I'm not saying for to get a tier higher, but definitely on the courses that suits him in even a little bit more. You never know what step he is able to make. That's going to be interesting. And Van de Putte has held his own quite well. So then tier 2 and tier 1. 3 names are left. And what did I do? Well, Nieuwenhuis and Van Toerenhout are there in tier 2. And I have to say, I had to think about this, because this basically means that Thibaut Nys is tier 1, is the the man on top of the mountain. And this was a hard decision, because it felt like my decision has been based entirely on the Koppenberg. And to be honest, in a way, it has. Because I think that his demonstration there was quite impressive and was very hard for me to ignore. But it was just... I said it before, and I will say it again. I just missed that confirmation in Lokeren, and that was why I was in doubt what I had to do. Eventually, I thought, well, let's have some balls, put Thibaut Nys there on top. I don't think it's a terrible decision. I feel that he, if he gets it together and if everything goes his way, I think he has the form to beat both guys. And that is something that we were not able to say about anyone that was going to be able to beat Nieuwenhuis and Van Toerenhout. And now we have one. So I think it's only fair then to give him the benefit of the doubt and put it on top there. And Nieuwenhuis and Van Toerenhout have to settle in tier 2. Well, that is my mountain. That is what I came up with. And I think that there will definitely be some discussion about it, but overall I feel quite confident about the choice that I've made this week.
Well, it's definitely some interesting changes there. I think you argued your case, and in today's episode we're not really looking to discuss that part, but Nys comes in on top. He is the defending champion. Issam, do you also see him as the favorite for the title again this weekend in Middlekerke?
Yeah, I think that he is definitely, for me at least, he's the favorite, because I think if you look at Middlekerke, it's really a course in which it's an endurance race. I can remember that Iserbyt, when we had the Belgian Championships, was talking about a time trial for Van Aert. So it's really, you can really put others under pressure by just a single effort. And there is not really this thing of sitting in the wheel. Sure, there are some sections where you can really do that. But it's just also with the running and the sand, it's just also very tough. So condition, the form will play a huge role as well. And I think that Nys has the power, has that ability. And as I said, I think that things have to go his way. But if they go his way, I don't think there is a rider at the moment that can beat him. But he has to show it, not only on the Koppenberg, but I need to see it now also in Middlekerke.
Yeah, I agree, because you could argue the weakness of Nys is that there is some sand on the course, and if you need to point out one weakness around Thibaut Nys, his weakest point is probably sand riding. But like we concluded earlier on, or I just kind of voiced it before you went on about your mud mountain, the amount of riding sand at this course is fairly limited. Yes, it will play a role, but it's not a race like Kokzijde or even like Mol or Hofstade. Those things aren't the same. So with the running, with those power sections, with those hills, I do agree. I do see Thibaut Nys as the favorite. Of course, he does still have a little bit of a reputation of being a hot, cold rider. we discussed in the previous episode that we both thought that was a little bit unjust. He is a peaker for these championships. He's always good at these championships, so it 100% makes sense to have him as the favorite for this weekend. That's how I see him as well. If I need to come up with the challengers, that is the same riders you have on the second tier of your mountain. Van Toerenhout, Nieuwenhuis, Ronhaar. I would place Nieuwenhuis and Van Toerenhout slightly above Ronhaar. I don't believe, once again, no news coming out of my mouth that there's going to be a Belgian block. I think these people are going to race for themselves. There might be 2 Dutch riders up there in Ronhaar and Nieuwenhuis, but the Belgians are racing for their own chance. I don't buy into that. So, that said, Nieuwenhuis, Van Toerenhout, we can kind of make the same point for them as we did for Nice, right? These are strong riders. They've proven themselves this season, a bit more than Nice because they've raced longer. But both of them are not really specialists on this course. They are not that great in the sand. They aren't bad by any means, but they're not a rider like Laurens Sveek. But why do I put them above riders like Sveek? Well, I just haven't seen that much from Sveek. I think with the running on this course that the advantage that Sveek can have from the sand will be reduced. So that's why I see Nieuwenhuis and Van Toerenhout as the main challengers to Nice. The difficult question for them is how do they win this race? They will need to drop Nice based on power, or Nice will need to make too many mistakes, or they will need to count on a mechanical misfortune, a mechanical failure like we saw in Lokeren. But because there's quite a bit of running, Nieuwenhuis and Van Toerenhout are both good runners. Both have shown good form. Van Toerenhout is historically a peaker for these type of courses. I would rate them slightly above Ronhaar, who's been good this season but doesn't really have that big win to his name, who still seemed to struggle a bit tactically, who wasn't that great this weekend. And then Sveek and Van der Putten, and more so Sveek than Van der Putten, they haven't shown enough. But that's where I come. So if I need to make a ranking, I would say Nice, Nieuwenhuis, Van Toerenhout, then Ronhaar with Van der Putten, and then Sveek. And that's not for your mountain, but that's more the way that I look at it in terms of favorites for this weekend.
Yeah, and I think that Sveek is higher than he should be in terms of form, but it's mainly because of his sand skills, I guess, and the way he is able to handle himself in those type of courses. But this is really a race in which you're going to be tested on your form, and there's not much hiding with your sand abilities, and maybe there will be in your first or second lap, and from there on it just gets tougher and tougher, and you have to run more, and then it just all adds up, I think, and that's what I see happening in a way for the European Championships, is that we will get winners that just had the best day and had the best form. And sure, they negotiated the sand as well, but they didn't make that many mistakes, no mechanicals, and they were just super strong. And there is not a lot of hiding. I don't know what the wind will do. That could maybe change it up a little bit. But it's gonna be a tough day for all riders. And yeah, I don't know if there is going to be any tactics, because if it's just going to, it could be a race in which it's just basically the one each one for their own, and then they all have to ride for each other, for themselves, and see where they end up, because I think that is what could play out, and that's also what we somewhat saw in the Belgian Championships. It's just, at some point there were just the riders, there were small gaps there, and some bigger gaps as well with Van Aert there up front, and that was it. You couldn't really help each other, and from section to section you dropped the one, and then the other rider came back, and then he dropped you on the next section, and it's just going to be a very tough race, I guess, and it's going to be interesting as well, because we don't see these type of courses that often on the calendar.
Certainly, I do think that I agree with that assessment. If I think back to those Belgian Championships, because this is not the venue that hosts the Super Prestige, if I think back to those Belgian Championships, the preview dynamic was the same. The sand will play a major role, but in the end the conclusion was the sand played a role, but not that big of a role. There was this sand section coming onto the beach, that one was quite influential, and then they had this sand section going off to the beach, but when they went off the beach they quickly went into the dunes, and all of that was running. So when you see this map, you will see, there's a long section on the beach. Yes, but account for the fact that not the entire section on the beach is a riding section. There's quite a lot of running. There's these dunes that are running. there is just limited footage available, and because it's on a military domain, there hasn't been any proper footage from a reconnaissance. So that makes it harder as well to kind of judge what changes they have made. The map looks a near identical copy, but the course designers always make a map and then they put down the lay of the land as they wish. So that changes things quite a bit coming into that weekend. So looking at the rest of the riders, I agree with your point about Sveik. Sveik is here based on his sand skills and kind of on his reputation. I have to admit that. But Niels van de Putte, he would be, we can't call him a dark horse, that would be misusing the term, but an outsider, let's put it that way. Based on form this season, he's been short of Nijs, Nieuwhuis and Van Toerenhout, of course, and is one for Nijs. I will say it a final time here. But what do you think he can do? Because a fast course like this is what suits him best, and he has shown more than Sveik. He is too a good rider in the sand, maybe still a bit in development, that reputation still needs to grow, but it's I think a rider that could finish on the podium. If anybody had to do it, I would place more faith in him than in, say, Sveik, Wiesure, Aerts, Orts. Even Verstringen, I'm not too sure if I would say Verstringen. I kind of regret not putting Verstringen down in the Substack preview, but at Cyclocross Social we like to not discuss too many riders, because if you preview everyone, you preview nobody. So what do you think? Van de Putte, Verstringen, or maybe some other names in your mind that can make a play for the podium/title?
Verstringen is for me the real dark horse in my opinion, because I think the running, the course itself is going to be tough. He's going to like that. He has shown great form. I think that he could be a real contender for a podium, definitely. But the same goes for Van de Putte, I think, as well. If his race goes his way somewhat, so he's able to start well and all that, then I think he can be in the mix as well, because he has shown in the last couple of weeks here and there as well some very good outings. So I think that those two are definitely very solid names. I'm interested to see what Mason will do, because when you're talking about races that are really tough and they will ask a lot from you, condition and all that, Mason could play a role. His sand skills are not really there, I guess. So, that will definitely not help him out there. But you never know how that will play out, because, as we said, the sand, if you have to run everything, what's then the point? But I don't think that's really going to be the case. But I think that will be somewhat the thing. I think that, maybe at the first couple of places, some things will be decided if there is a small margin in terms of difference between the riders. That could, sand could make the difference in terms of the way you're riding through the sand and your sand skills. But I think that on other places, like maybe outside the podium and the top 5, a lot will be also decided on just form as well, and not only the sand skills. And then you maybe have to look into riders with a big engine. Wiesure has been somewhat watching what was happening in front of him, I guess, in the last couple of results. So hopefully he can make that step up as well. I can remember that both Verstringen and Wiesure had actually a good outing there on the Belgian Championship. So we have to wait and see how that will play out. But I think a big engine will help you a long way on this course, and the sand skills will also be there to give you a hand, but not more than that.
No, and I think it's also hard to really see a scenario in which there's extensive group racing here. It won't be the same as in Pontevedra last year, because there it was a large pack and it was just waiting for the rubber band to kind of snap somewhere. Here it has more features to it that will kind of string out the pack and force these separations, especially with riders like Ronhaar not being scared to attack early on. So it will be an interesting dynamic, and yeah, like you say, it will really come down to the form, and normally there is always a surprise. So like you say, Mason would be a surprise. I don't think Verstringen really qualifies for the term dark horse based on his season so far, but he's been good and he really makes a play. He was the one rider who I thought about putting in the preview that in the end just didn't quite make it for me. Toon Aerts, Felipe Orts, I don't really see it happening here. So prediction for me, Nijs 1, 2 Nieuwenhuis, and in third place I'm going to go with Niels van der Putten.
No Van Toerenhout.
No, it's difficult, but somebody has to miss out on the cut, and while Van Toerenhout is a peaker for this race and could very well be the one winning here in the end, I have to leave him off. I see on this course more potential for Nijs Nieuwenhuis and Van der Putten.
I'm not betting against him in the championship. he's making a podium for sure, in my opinion. So, yeah, I guess I go for Nijs as well. I hope, it has to go his way, but I think that Nijs for me is the favorite, so I think he can win it. Nieuwenhuis was good, in Lokeren. Okay, then I guess I will go for Nijs, Nieuwenhuis, Van Toerenhout, and maybe maybe Verstringen can snatch a podium of one of those two guys, but I think that will be my order. I think that Nieuwenhuis was so good, so in Lokeren, that's just that is just an image that I cannot really remove at this point. But he was good, so I guess Nijs, Nieuwenhuis, Van Toerenhout, that will be my podium prediction.
Let's move to the women's racing then, and we will commence by taking a little look at Noah's 9.
Catch the heat! Noah's 9.
That's right, it's time for a new power ranking on the women's side. Fem van Empel is off the list. She is not able to compete this weekend at the European Championships. That means she's out for 2 weeks in a row. She's training in Spain. I don't think she will be racing in Niel either, so that means I can keep her off until I know when she's going to come back. It might be for Merckxplas and Hamme, but honestly at this point I see it most likely that she is returning in Tabor. It's a big goal of her to win the World Cup this year, so that would make most sense unless she comes back in Niel already, but that would be somewhat unlikely. She's not racing, in case you missed it, due to a illness she got after Heerde. It took quite a toll on her. She DNF'd in the Koppenberg and therefore is not racing the European Championships. Then my list, it has some changes to it, but not all too many. Most of the changes are because Fem van Empel is off. We have on number 9 this week, Inge van der Heijden drops 1 place. It's not that she's been doing bad, but her results are kind of better than her placement here because a lot of the time she races everything and then there's a few riders missing. So her season hasn't been bad, but it's been a little bit colorless. Still, she finds a course that really suits her. One thing I will say about Van der Heijden is that what I've noticed, Issam, is that these riders that were really good in Meulenbeke, say Inge van der Heijden, say Laurens Sweeck, say Joran Wieseuren, after that have not been bad, but they have not quite been able to replicate what we saw there, once again proving that the first race of the season means nothing for what's to come. Perhaps it's a tactic to peak for this weekend and we will get Van der Heijden, Sweeck and Wieseuren on the podium, and I will be telling all of you, oh, this is a great plan by Krelan Corendon, but we will need to wait and see. In 8th place is one of the contenders for the U23 title, Leonie Bentveld. She had a okay outing this weekend, but she still drops 1 place. She didn't race on the Koppenberg. She was very fresh coming into Lokeren. She then didn't really convince me considering that freshness. She's been up there in all the races, but then those final 2 laps remain an issue. I don't think it's a case of blowing up, but I think it's more of a case that she doesn't quite have the engine yet, the volume to compete in those final 2 laps of the race. Moving up then on the list is Helene Clauzel. I was very impressed by her performance on the Koppenberg. She's historically not been a good rider on those climby courses, but she did really well there. 4th place, duking it out with Sarah Casasola. In my opinion, that was worthy of a move up. Amandine Fouquenet stays in 6th place, kind of because Van Empel is moving off the list. That means that she is losing out to another rider, but Fouquenet wasn't that good on the Koppenberg. It's not a great course for her, especially the tactical and the technical aspect. I think she blew up ever so slightly in the first lap and also really struggled in those downhills. So she remains on 6th. I don't think this course this weekend is good for her, but we'll touch on that in a second. 5th place, coming in, and now my favorite for the Women's U23 title, which we will talk about in a little bit, Celia Géry. What a performance on the Koppenberg. 2nd place, phenomenal downhills in the final lap. Before that, keeping her composure on the climbs. Really, really strong outing, worthy of a high debut position on my list. 4th place, Marion Norberg-Ribeiro, the Belgian champion. She, of course, struggled a little bit on the Koppenberg. It's not a good course for her. She's a very big rider, powerful rider, more for the courses like Dendermonde. But her performance in Lokeren, it was a slow start, but once she got underway, it was really good. Okay, she kind of snapped that final podium position away from Casasola, or the second podium position. She snapped it away from Casasola, but it's still a very good outing by her, so she's on 4th. That's just off the podium. I considered for a long time if I should put her in 3rd, but keeping my 3rd place at the moment with Aniek van Alphen, mainly because I think the type of courses we're getting now, with a course like Middlekerke, with a course like Niel, Merksplas, Hamme, these type of courses are very good for Van Alphen. I've been impressed by her this season, so she is on 3rd place. In 2nd place, Sarah Casasola. I would have moved her past Fem van Empel regardless. Her outings this weekend were very good, solid on the Koppenberg. Perhaps a bit disappointing that she wasn't in the position of Jerry, but after that crash in the first lap, she piled up the mistakes. That's a bit of experience that still needs to come. But regardless, I'm being impressed. I've been impressed by Casasola this season, and not necessarily against my expectations. I've been high on her since the start, but 2nd place, that's still behind the number 1, Cinda Brandt. She has just lost one race this season to Sarah Casasola after a crash in Overijse. Especially her performance in Lokeren once she got underway was really good, and that's why she remains on number 1. And Issam, for me, the big favorite to finally take the European Championship. With Van Empel missing now, she is, to me, the woman to beat this weekend.
Yeah, I agree. You know, we used the word already, big engines, and I think that for Brandt, you know, if there's one thing that she has as a big engine, and compared to the others, it's just there is I wouldn't say there is no point, but it's clear for me at least that Brandt has that engine and has that edge over competitors in the likes of a Casasola, for example. So. She can do some self-sabotage, I guess. That could be something that we could maybe witness in the first couple of laps. But if she just does what she has to do and gets to the front, stays at the front, I don't think this can really go wrong for her. And the running will also help her out a little bit as well, because I think with the field starting, she should definitely be one of the better runners. So that's also going to help her out there, and you know, running in the sand is a bit different, but I think that will still be okay, and I think that Brandt could become a European champion, definitely.
She's been very good, Issam, so I really see no reason to doubt her. In the prediction you read on the Substack, you could already see that I had Van Empel in 3rd place. Considering she came from illness, I didn't have high expectations anyway. Brandt would have always been the woman to beat. She's been really good this season. I will need to wait more and more. I will just need to stay patient to see that battle between Brandt and any of the other top riders. It's a shame that Alvarado isn't here. It's a shame that Vorst isn't here. But that's unfortunately the way it goes sometimes. If we're looking at opponents for Brandt, because I agree with your assessment, Sarah Casasola, even with the limited sand here, Issam, I am worried for her. Those few sand sections can cost her a lot of time. The passages were not great in that little sand pit in Lokeren. The work that we saw on the sand in Ruddervoorde was also far from great. We've seen it being a trend in the past. Casasola is just not a good rider in the sand. This season, that doesn't have seemed to change all too much. I'm a bit worried for her. A lot can be compensated by her engine. She should still be in contention for that podium because she's so strong this season. But if there's one place to put Casasola under pressure, it's by being in a group, out-positioning her. That's another vulnerability before a sand section. Then try and open a gap there and hope you can kind of fatigue her that way. That's the way to approach it from Casasola. And if I'm looking at the riders to do that, probably Van Alphen, maybe Clausel, but more so Ribeiro.
Yeah, you know, with Ribeiro, you'd never know how a race will go because she can. I don't know. There's always something happening, I guess. So at least that's going to be exciting. But and with Van Alphen, she is definitely strong, but I don't know. It seems like it's fading ever so slightly, and I don't know if that is an indication that I should pick up on or not. But yeah, I think that is definitely where you have to look at in terms of competition, and that battle for the podium is for those women is definitely going to be interesting, because as you said, we are missing a few key riders that normally should have been a factor for the podium battle, and that's an opportunity. So I think that will definitely play a role. I also am a little scared of how Casasola will hold her own on this course, but as you said as well, I think that with her engine, she should compensate enough to at least have a decent result. It's not going to be a terrible outing, but it could be outside the podium. I wouldn't see that as a crazy result for her, and that could be the case. But if she holds her own quite well and she's able to negotiate the course, she normally should be a podium contender in my opinion. But the race could go a lot of ways, but normally if everything just there are no weird circumstances, it should just be a race of nutrition and in terms of how good are the legs. And I think that we have seen, it was quite evident that Brandt at the moment is just on top there in the women's category.
I think you mean a race of attrition and not nutrition, because it's
Yeah,
definitely not an eating contest, but I think that would have been clear to our listeners anyway. I feel with the women's category kind of the same as with the men's category, but then not necessarily for the top favorite, but for the riders behind. If we look at Casasola and Ribeirol, those are not really the sand specialists. They would perhaps be the second and third favorites in the absence of Van Empel, but they don't have necessarily the sand skills, but the engine component here can play a really big role in their favor. So Van Alphen has better sand riding skills, but the best sand rider outside of Laura Verdonschot, who is experiencing a setback following a surgery she underwent early this year to fix her injury. She had narrowed arteries as well, just like Elie Iserbyt. Other than Verdonschot, Inge van der Heijden is the best sand rider of the bunch. Shirin van Anrooy makes a good case, but she's not here yet. So Inge van der Heijden would be a contender. But Van der Heijden I haven't seen enough, just like for Zweek. I made that point in Noah's 9, so I won't repeat it. Is this a tactic to peak for the championships, or are they just not good enough yet, and will that need to come later on? Or doesn't it come at all this season? Because that's always a possibility as well. Sometimes we're waiting and thinking, Christmas period, but if it doesn't come by Christmas, it's very, very rare that you still see kind of a salvation that late on in the year for the World Championships. So, for me, I don't necessarily agree on the point of Van Alphen. Yes, she's maybe in terms of positioning not the one that has the upper hand in terms of race result positioning, but I do think this course is good for her. She is very good on the faster courses. We're going to get a fast course. So for me, Van Alphen is a real contender for the podium. I don't see her as a contender for the title. I think if a title, it would have to come from Casasola or maybe Ribeirol having an exceptional day. Foucounet I can see feature in with a fast start. That's the one place you can put Brandt under pressure. The starts of Brandt are good, but not amazing this year. Same as last year, by the way. So those I could say make a move, but the battle for the podium is quite open, I would say. Again, in the Substack preview, I didn't mention everyone because I don't really like doing that, and I know you feel the same when we collaborate on these written posts, but I would say from second onwards, there's quite a lot of contenders. Casasola, Van Alphen, Ribeirol, Foucounet, Clauzel, Van der Heijden. So that should be an entertaining battle, and I'm curious to hear your predictions, Issam.
I'm not gonna lie. I have not. I have given it a thought, but as you said, there are quite some scenarios for second and third place. There are a few for first place as well, but a lot has to depend on what Brandt is doing. But for second and third, it is somewhat open. I would say that Brandt definitely wins, and then I take for second. I would go for Ribeirol. And then in third, I'll take Casasola. And I'm not confident in my picks. But we have to wait and see.
Neither am I, but I will swap things around a bit then. Go with Brandt on 1, Casasola on 2, and Aniek van Alphen for a bronze. medal. Two riders that were in my list but not mentioned here were Leonie Bentveld and Celia Gerry-Essam. These two are the favorites for the women's U23 title, and I think it's hard to really name anybody else. There's a lot of talented U23 women, but they're all to start their season yet. So with that, Gerry is, in my opinion, slightly the top favorite based on that performance. Her sand riding skills are not great. I haven't really seen much of them. She hasn't really done many sandy races. So that could be a potential weakness. Bentveld was okay in the sand. Solid, I would say. Okay is a bit of a understatement for how she rode in Heerde, but she's been fine. She's been solid. Not a standout rider in the sand, but not one that stands out in a negative way either. It's definitely not a rider like Casasola or Blanca Vash in the past. And the running of Bentveld is also quite good, but it's hard to look past that performance of Gerry on the Koppenberg with how strong she is and what we know from her as well. Last year, the defending champion, it's easy to forget, but last year she got a free lead out from Marie Schreiber for 40 minutes and then took the lead in the sprint, which was absolutely hilarious.
which I did not watch live, but holy moly. My goodness. Yeah, well, that didn't really plan out the way Schreiber thought that would play out. But yeah, I think with Gerry, she's a killer. And I think that with the championship, that's basically the mentality that you need. It will also be somewhat, I think, at least I hope for Bentveld, that she will approach it a little bit smarter. Because it seems to be the way that she sometimes gets too carried away in a race and doesn't really have that much left in the end. And I think with Gerry, if you do that and Gerry is able to hang on, fatal. So, then there is no point really to do the last lap for Bentveld, I guess, or if you want to secure second. But for first, it's gone. Gerry is not going to, let that opportunity just slide. That's going to be hers for the taking. And that is what Bentveld has to do. She has to put Gerry on the pressure, and if she has a good day and Gerry, it's not unthinkable that Bentveld is able to put Gerry on the pressure, break away, have a gap, and build on that gap. I think it's not unthinkable, but as you said, Koppenberg is just it's I wouldn't say similar to what Nijs did, but I think it's maybe in our judgment it maybe plays a similar role. It's you've seen that, because I think if that race didn't happen, you would probably say, oh yeah, Bentveld normally is the favorite. Gerry could play a role, but normally Bentveld should be, this is her championship. But now with Koppenberg, things have changed, and Now the judgment is a little bit different, so I don't know. I have to see how that will play out. I think that will be an interesting championship as well, and it will probably be between the two because, as you said, I think that is how it is playing out at the moment.
The reason why we would put Bentveld over Gerry is also some bias, right? We're biased towards the big races. Those are on our screen. That's what we're basing our decisions on, and that's perhaps not entirely fair, but it's hard to judge a race in the Coupe de France or in Switzerland because the competition isn't of the same level, and we're more likely to see Bentveld do something, and we're waiting for a judgment for Gerry. Personally, I would always recommend a rider to complete the final lap, regardless of where they are or who they are with, but I get your point. It's very hard to beat Gerry in the final lap. It's the road U23 world champion for a reason, right? And did that in some fashion as well. A race that I in turn didn't see live because I was in an airplane on the way to Charm City Cross. But regardless, I think you're right. I will briefly go over third place. I think that should normally be a lock for Amandine Muller. Her performance on the Koppenberg in the shadow of Gerry was very impressive. Didn't at all go mentioned in the Belgian press. Heck, they didn't even know which team Gerry was riding for. They were saying she was going to transfer to FDG. They weren't aware that ASBike team has a partnership, or that Muller was also racing for the same team. But for me, Muller, clear favorite for third place. If I have to name any outsiders for a podium place, it would be Puk Langenbach, Leonie Bentveld, Laura Molengraaf. Those two would be a shout. The Czech trio of Duderova, Gottwaldova, and Hladíková. But now I'm really just naming the names. For me, the podium, Gerry, Bentveld, and Muller.
I will agree with you on that. I think that Muller also on the Koppenberg was super good, and with Molengraaf and Langenbach, we have seen that it's been it yet. So an under 23 race is a bit different, and that just brings a different dynamic and could give those riders specifically a better chance of getting into the race. But those races do not lie. You know, the form is just not really there. And yeah, when you have the evidence, I guess, for a third place in the likes of Muller with the Koppenberg, I think that you have to take it. And yep, she definitely looks like a very strong candidate for that third spot. So I'll pick her too.
A race I am also excited for is the Menu 23, the final race we will discuss now. A couple of favorites. I think for me the one that stands out is Jordi Corses. He won the U23 X2O race in Lokeren. Above all, the reason I'm putting him first in my favorites list is his third place in Heerde, a course that from what we've seen this season probably leans the closest to what we are getting here. Some sand but also quite some running, a very honest course in a way. Challengers, of course, Albin Sparvel, winner of the U23 race on the Koppenberg, winner of 2 Coupe de France races, very strong rider. He too has a big engine. This course should suit him with a bit of race rhythm as well under his belt. In terms of Italians, Stefano Viezzi was very impressed by him last year, but this is not a good course for him. He is much better on the muddy courses, the heavier courses. His countryman, Mattia Agostinacchio, he is better on these type of courses. He's been solid so far, but this will be his first test against the big guns in the U23 category. Doesn't have that many points, which will be putting him at a deficit at the start of the race. Curious to see. Read an interview with the coordinator of cyclocross there, that is Sebastian Langeveld for EF. He said that they are only working with Agostinacchio towards the World Championships and think he can improve quite a lot throughout the season. Final name then here is David Haverdings, but I'm mentioning him more out of respect because he was really a big talent and I had high expectations for him coming in following a good road season, but so far not been that good. Nevertheless, always dangerous to underestimate a rider like that. Last year he came quite close to the title until his chain snapped in the final lap.
Yeah, and I think that with this race, it's really from the races that we are discussing, I wouldn't say it's the most open, but it definitely has a lot of contenders for the podium because I think that Corses with his performance on the Heerderstrand was definitely... That was a serious outing from him, and I think that is definitely something you have to take into account for such a course as well, because he just proven himself there in terms of his engine, the way he negotiated the sand, being able to notice when you have to get off your bike and when you have to jump back on again, and how far you have to get through the sand. I think that he looks to be in very good form, and I think for me at least he is my favorite for the title. But behind him, I think, with the French riders as well, it is, we're going to see Christophe Bazant again. I don't know. I have to say, this could be quite interesting, and we could be in for surprise names, I guess. Not in the sense that it will be a huge surprise, but it will be more of a, I didn't forget about him, but I didn't really think of him with this course. And that it's going to be... I'm also quite happy that we are going to get such a race quite early on in the season with these riders, because now we have sort of a reference, because a lot of these riders, they stay in their regional circuits and all that, and I guess that is definitely a benefit that we have with such a championship, because they are now forced to give us a reference, I guess.
I think what plays a role here is and the women's racing I think will still be quite good, but on the women's side I feel there's a lot more riders that still need to start their season. Even in the junior women's category, it's kind of sparsely populated. I don't know if Anja Gosman is going to race any more cross this season. She's not defending her title. Lise Revol is still to start her season. There's a few more French, Italians that are holding out. So it's kind of a bit more thin. So kind of by elimination for the junior woman, Barbora Bukowska is the favorite. By elimination of so many top U23 women who are still coming from the road or mountain bike or are not European, we see that we have two contenders, a clear rider for third, and then are kind of grasping at outsiders to name. Whereas here, this is not the case. These riders that we see here now are also the riders that we are going to be seeing later this season. A rider who we didn't mention so far is Kai de Bruikere. He is a bit on my fraud watch alert, I have to say. He's not been doing bad, but he's a final year U23. He was the vice world champion, silver medalist in Ливан. And he's not been that good this season. Last year he kind of came out of the blue. Nobody really expected him. He was never a really big talent. And all of a sudden he was doing great. And it was a great story that kind of attributed to long-term athlete development. And some riders progress at a later age. But it always makes me wary as well when these third and fourth year U23s suddenly come up in what appears to be a bit of a power vacuum. Lander Looks had the same, and for years the Belgians couldn't understand why he didn't progress. But he only performed quite solidly as a last year U23, and even then he didn't stand out compared to the international competition. So Lander Looks, I'm happy that he's found a way on the road, and he's a solid cross rider, don't get me wrong, but I'm very wary of Kai de Bruikere. I have to mention him based on his reputation, but to me, he's not one of the big favorites. I will slightly disagree with you that Courses is the big favorite. For me, it will be Sparvel. I think he is a bit more powerful, and that will help him. But Courses has definitely increased his engine, and I'll give you the honors of picking first here.
I think I will go for Courses, then Sparvel. Third, I guess I have to say Agostinaccio, because I think that he has shown himself quite well and proven himself a little bit. Should negotiate this course okay. Has the engine, so that should be. But I think that is, for me at least, the third place. I'm not so sure about. I think those two, Sparvel and Courses, are for me definitely a certainty in terms of that they will fight for a podium spot for sure. And Agostinaccio for me is a bit of a question mark. Also taking into account that for him the World Championships is probably going to be the main goal, and how he has built his season so far.
Rooting for Italy, I see. I have to mention something funny. There is an Italian team I got notified, which is a junior development team. It's called like CX Devo Academy or something. I don't really know what's up there, but they have an Italian champion racing around in a fully Cyclocross Social branded shirt. And it's like in their logo, the CX Devo, the O is our logo. And I don't really understand, because the rest of the team has nothing to do with that branding. We have nothing to do with the team, but I guess they're doing some free promotion in some way or form for us, so I'm not really sure if I should be thankful or
Sue them!
kind of insulted.
Sue them!
Cease and exist order. I don't really know what to do about that, but what I do know is that I need to make a prediction, and I will go with Sparvel on one ahead of Courses. Hopefully an entertaining battle. And for third place, I will then go with David Haverdings, although I was tempted to go with Agostinaccio myself as well, but just to spice things up a bit, Haverdings, I think he should be okay. He hasn't been bad this season. He was 9th in Heerderstrand, so that's something to go by for him. Isam, thank you so much. That will be it.
Thank you for having me. Dinner is almost calling, so I'm very happy that we were able to wrap it up. Quite decent time. So yeah, it's gonna be an interesting European Championships. I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be great. It's a real shame that we are only going to see the elite races and nothing else. So thank you for whoever is responsible. But I'm looking forward to these races. It's gonna be fun. Championships are always fun.
Not me though. I will be there in Middlekerke on the ground. And that means that we will have a bit more to talk about this weekend. So you can expect some longer episodes. I will be reporting on what I've seen with my own eyes. And I do agree with some, like, they should broadcast these things, and especially at a championship like this. But now you can see kind of the difference between Belgium, where organizing a cyclocross race is about the money, about what it brings into the basket at the end of the day. And then you see these places, where have we been? We've been to Spain, we've been to France, and there they just put on the broadcast because why not? They put on the relay because why not? But they don't do it in Belgium because that's all extra costs. Regardless, thank you again so much for being here. Thanks everyone for listening or watching, and we will be back this weekend. 2 days, 2 episodes. See you guys then. Goodbye.